Tanya's mother, my
Yep.
mother-in-law has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And actually, technically, from what I've learned, is they can't technically diagnose you until after you have passed away. They would do an autopsy. They can look at your brain and they can say, yes,
You did in fact have
do in
Alzheimer's.
fact have
The
Alzheimer's.
specific kind.
The
Really?
specific kind.
Yes.
And I know there's different. I don't want to,
Yes.
misspeak.
You're right. There's a lot of kinds of dementia.
That's right.
Different kinds.
And so that's what we were told. But growing up, Tanya and I have been together for forever, right?
Yeah.
Her mom's like my mother, she's like my mother. And watching her, since I was 15 years old, handling all the family business, handling Tanya's dad was a tuna fisherman. He'd be gone for months. Mom's holding down the fort. Mom says, hey, we need to move from this house to, we want to buy a better house, upgrading over the years, before I show up when I'm fit. But she's managing everything. Paying Cox cable, doing all the errands, getting Tanya to and from school, making life happen, right?
Yep.
And then as we
Working full time.
full time,
wow.
and just I mean, like you and I, right? And then stuff happens. It's not this disease is so crazy for me because it's not a cause and effect, meaning, I'm smoking cigarettes and lo and behold, I have mouth cancer. You're like,
Yep.
oh shoot, that's terrible.
That's how it
we all
happens.
know
Yeah,
cancer is terrible
right.
and it comes in many forms.
Yeah.
But sometimes things happen because of other things. We know that. Alzheimer's, you're just going about life. And then one day my mother-in-law, over a series of times, starts to show signs of strangeness. She
Yep.
can't find her keys. Just like, I can't find my keys. And it's not like, some crazy, you're like, oh, you can't find your keys. Well, let me help you. And then the next time, maybe a month, maybe a week, maybe who knows, it becomes more severe. I can't, did you all of a sudden, it gets very severe where it's like, hey, and we live next door to them. So, my father-in-law would come over and he would say, hey, I need you to come over here. And my mother-in-law would have everything out on the counter looking for a measuring cup and then becoming accusatory. And I can't find my purse, and I find it under the couch or under her bed, and I'm like, here's your purse. And it's, just so terrible to see this happen. And you're like, it's nothing that she's doing to herself. It's just happening.
Yep.
And it's not like, I want this to happen. I've made this happen to me. Is connectors in your brain become corroded and they can't talk to each other anymore.
Yep.
So things happen and you go, it's just not fair. Like, why? That's not fair.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
if you had ate differently, maybe, who knows? Nobody
Sure.
knows, right? We don't
Yep.
know
Yep.
the cause and effect of Alzheimer's, but it happens. So then now we are in this. She's at a wonderful care facility, and literally we have moments of, does she know us? Does she not? It's very hard to
Yep.
decipher, but for the majority of the time, I think we can agree she doesn't.
Right.
And she's not alone. She's in a room full of a lot of people with the exact same situation, and I'm like, how?
And the
Yep.
people in this
Yep.
room are surgeons, generals from
Yes.
the Navy or
Yep.
something. They're like really high political people that you're just
All
blown
walks.
away. All walks of life, and they have just high intelligence, high IQs. It's nothing that they did.
And everybody's there, and they're just there.
Yep.
And
It's
it's
just
it's
existing.
like we're living it, it's crushing. And we're not even living it like other people are living it that maybe can't afford to have mom or dad or sibling or somebody being taken
Yep.
care of, and they have to
Yep.
take care of them. And that, we are blessed in that sense that we aren't in that position, but that's what the association does. They help people out. It's
That's
just
why
amazing to me.
everybody needs to be donating right now.
Yes.
They need to be putting money in there because you don't know who it's going to be. It
Yep.
could be
Yep.
you.
And
you
it happened to
you
Mom.
could find yourself in that place where you're going, okay, if not, I can't afford to get my loved one into this facility. I guess I'm the caregiver.
You have
I
to.
guess I'm just the
I
full-time
have
live-in.
multiple friends that
That's
are in
what
that
you do.
situation.
Yep.
And my
Yep.
friend got so exhausted because she's like, I've got to go to the grocery store, so my mom has to go with me to
Yep.
the grocery store because I can't leave her alone. Well, mom now decided at the red light to get out of the car
Yeah.
and walk down the freeway, and It's
You know,
like you
and
don't understand. Like that's a gnarly.
and your mom was
thing.
young when it started happening,
Yep.
like in her 60s, bro. I'm 55. I'm like, hold on
like,
a second here.
slow that roll.
Actually, I'm 54, January 3rd, 55.
Whoa.
Third, write it
Hey.
down. Write it down.
Denny's, hello,
And
Denny's.
so,
That's exactly what I told him. I said, "Oh my gosh, we're almost to the senior menu."
The Denny's.
Good for you guys.
Almost
55.
there.
I heard you get good deals on that thing.
I heard too.
No, they give you one egg.
Yeah.
Uh,
You don't eat much when you're
You'll
55.
get carded though. They won't
Yeah.
believe. They won't believe for a second you're 55. No way.
For another 20 years, he'll card
That's
this guy.
tough. So
So
that's
you're
just
saying that
it's,
to encourage people,
Yeah.
like, not make everyone depressed.
No, no.
But I'm saying
That's
is
just
it
the
happens,
true-
stuff happens.
Yeah.
Stuff happens young.
Yep.
Like, you know, and stuff happens in strange ways where you're like, okay, like what is going on?
Yep.
You got to watch
Yep.
and help and not you know, there's just so many ways to go about it with love
Yep.
and understanding but just being aware and knowing that, man, you know, stuff happens.
I think-
Alzheimer's sucks.
Why we do this. You know, that's what I was telling Ryan when we were trying to decide on a cause. It was like, Alzheimer's San Diego has been around for a long time.
Yep.
I don't ever
Yep.
hear about it. You know what I'm
Right?
saying? And I'm like, if we're not stepping up
Yep.
and communicating in our
Yep.
communities that this is something we're passionate about, because people are running into it when it happens to them.
Yep.
They're not running into it when you don't know anybody. You're running
That's
into
right.
it when you have somebody or you know somebody who has Alzheimer's, and it is the worst possible time.
And
That's
look,
right.
and we're not talking like, oh, like a couple of people that we know. Alzheimer's San Diego reaches 20,000 people every year they give care to.
Wow.
Yeah.
20,000 people.
That's
I
amazing.
keep harping on them, but their support for caregivers is really striking me, because I just think about my grandpa. You know, that was the thing. Yeah, they had plenty of money. They could have put my grandma in a facility, but my grandpa felt the duty and responsibility as her husband
Yep.
Oh,
to
sorry.
take
Yep.
care of her till the end. And I didn't really understand it until I got married, and then now I understand like the loyalty and that how you would give your whole being up for your spouse. And I can't imagine trying to support somebody and feeling like maybe putting them in a facility is failing them, which is not. But as a spouse, forget it.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
think that's a different level too.
Yeah.
You know, it's different when you start to have kids, you have a different level and appreciation for family. It's just different. And, you know, and then when you get married, it's a different level of relationship, a different level of love.
Yep.
Like, you know, you have all these tiers.
Yeah.
And you get it, John. That's exactly right. Because once you have that connection, that marriage, that love, you're like, oh,
Yep.
that's a different deal.
Yeah, that's why when my grandma passed away, I was obviously emotional, but I was telling Jordan, like, I'm emotional because I love my grandma, but I'm also emotional because, like, my grandpa, like, he lost his Jordan, for me. And I'm like, that is unimaginable. And that's why I'm like, I want to dedicate as much resources and time with any influence that I could possibly have to support some things that, if there's another scenario like my grandma, they have everything they need. And maybe they don't have a guy like my grandpa, maybe she's alone. We can support her, we can help her. And if she does have a community, we can support them too. Because the
Right.
caregiver needs support.
Here, here.
Huge.
I hear
And
you.
it's not just the monetary, physical. It's the mental health part
Yep.
too.
Yep.
I think that is the hardest part for any caregiver, is the just keeping your mind sane and
the daily.
this
Yep.
daily grind. And it's like your toddler never has grown up.
Yep.
Sadly, at least in my circumstance. I don't want to insult anybody, but in my circumstance, my poor mom, she is the sweetest thing in the world, but she needs like physical things she can't do anymore.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so it's difficult.
Perspective.